because everything's available to our children through the internet. And there is no, like, we used to think of like oldies as like oldies, but kids listen to music these days. They have no reference about when it was made or what genre or decade it was from. They just listen to music. So my kids are constantly surprised that I know the songs that they're listening to, because they were songs from when, I've known them my whole life. And they're like, whoa, you're so cool. They just don't know.
Yeah, there's a difference for sure to what they have access to. I think they miss out a little bit. Like me personally, whether it was albums or cassettes or CDs, I liked having the collection of having them, right? And reading the liner notes and looking at the cover art. They'll never really have that. Like they look at my CD collection.
You're a nerd, though.
Facts, right? But they see my CD collection in the basement because I still have one, and they're like, "What is this?" Like, we slide something out. And it's okay. Like I there's still something valuable to me to having those things, right? I don't know, not as much as like the DVD collection, but I liked having my music. Music is different than the movies that I had. But that's just me. All right, so welcome everybody to day 2 of your Command Daily Live here at Region 12, and we are going to take a look at contacts today. Contacts, to me, it's the data bank. It's everything to your business. It's that engine that drives how successful you can be based on your communication skills. If you don't communicate, right, then you're transaction to transaction based. We want you to be sphere based. Like I believe passionately about that. It's something I've always done. I was not a Buffini person, but I happened to end up later on joining an office that was very heavy in the Buffini world. And for those of you who don't know who that is, basically it's sphere-based business, right? It's your A, B's, and C's, your contacts, it's who you're talking to, how regularly, how intently, and how purposeful you are in your communication. None of that happens if you don't have emails, phone numbers, and addresses. It's really just that simple, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about contacts today and why that's so important. A couple of housekeeping items, and this is something we ask for everybody. If you could take a minute, click on your little box on your screen, click on the upper right corner where the 3 dots are, and click rename yourself and add your Market Center number. That allows us to track attendance just so we know who's here, and lets me know who I'm talking to. And if I ever need to refer anybody back to a Market Center for a question, the Market Center Tech Trainer, that's very helpful to me. So if you could add your Market Center number, I'd be great. Second, I see a number of you have yet to turn on your cameras. It's something I demand. Okay, that's just me. I demand your attention. I demand, I need to know who you are. I need to see smiles. In the world that we're in now, having a Zoom conference is good and bad, right? So when I was going out and I was teaching in the field, I could have stadium style seating and I could look you in the eyes and see, are you hearing me? I need to have that in these training classes too. So Henry, Roya, Nicolina, Becky, D-Ball,
I'm coming.
That is something I need. So thank you for that. All right, so let's go ahead and get in. Yesterday was orientation. We had great attendance yesterday, and some of you I see back again. So that means that I'm connecting with you at a higher level, or maybe you went to some of the previous orientation classes. Is there anything out of yesterday's session that you took away as an aha, or you took that, hey, this you weren't informed of, or something you need a little bit more information before we take a deeper look into contacts today?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Just that much of a rock star trainer? All right, I can live with that. Jackie knows. She's been listening to me bloviate for years about technology. Right, Jackie?
Absolutely.
All right. So as we get into this, and you guys will learn a routine, but we're going to go over a lot of information, and chances are the questions you have will get answered at some point in time, but they will not be ignored. The chat is being monitored throughout the session. So I have Ted Townsley on the call. I'm not sure if I have any of my other Wendy's here, staring me in the face. My other Market Center Tech Trainers representing today. They'll answer your questions inside a chat. I'll ask you that you keep your open mic questions till the end, just so we can stay on track. But I will go open mic so you guys can get questions. I may pause them intermittently and ask them if I'm missing anything, and we'll just kind of keep rolling from there. Does that sound good for everybody? Awesome, thanks. All right, so let's go in. Let me bring up my slides and share my screen here. Does everybody see my screen okay? Contacts on command. All right, excellent. So we'll go in contacts. I am recording this, so this will be posted to the YouTube channel sometime later today or tomorrow. Let me just go back. I always like to share this screen because not everybody knows who the Market Center tech trainers are for their specific market center. So just take a quick minute, see your market center number, and who your affiliated market center tech trainer is. If you're not familiar with the role, basically I help oversee the program for the region through KWRI. I am local. I've been in Northern Virginia for 8 years. I'm affiliated with the KW United Group out of Falls Church, Kingstown, and Fredericksburg, but I also do work for the region as the regional tech trainer. There are market center tech trainers in or affiliated with every single market center in the region. The only one that says TBD right now is Kingstown, and I am overseeing that in the now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So for the rest of you, you may see somebody that's either in your market center or helps oversee your market center, because we do have a couple that cover multiple market centers. So you should know who they are, and there they are for you. Contacts. We're going to talk about contacts today, right? There's a couple ways to import contacts, so I'm going to show you how to do that. There is a difference between Excel and Apple. Excel works best versus Apple pages or numbers. I always get this transition. You're going to want to use Excel if we're using a spreadsheet, just a clear heads up. When we talk about our contacts, we do talk about database health score, okay? Health score is important, right? Because you can have somebody's name, but what do you really have? The more information you have about them, right? Name, email, phone number, where they live, the big four, right? If you at least have that, then you've got a solid understanding about somebody. If you only have one email or one phone number, I challenge you to think how much of a relationship you truly have with somebody and how you're going to communicate. Can you do notes, calls, and Popeyes? That's a Buffini thing, right? Can you make phone calls? Can you send them specific information that's pertinent to them about where they live, like through a smart plan or a neighborhood nurture, which we'll touch on tomorrow, about the areas where they live, where they want to go, right? What does that relationship look like? Having less contacts in your database versus vast numbers of contacts in your database doesn't matter. It's the amount of contacts you have for each of the contacts. If you have 15,000 contacts, can you have 15,000 relationships? It sounds like you're in a numbers game. Law of numbers works, right? If you're deliberate on that. You might have 300 contacts, and the laws of averages will tell you that if you have 300 contacts, okay, or even if you had 100 contacts, right? We'll go with 10% of those are going to either do or know somebody that's going to do buy, sell, or invest in real estate that particular year. So if you had 100 people that you had relationships with, right, 10 of them could lead to business for you. If you're in consistent, regular communication that they think of you when they think of the word real estate. Right? We've all been burned. If you haven't yet, you will be. This is one of the few certainties I give you, that somebody you know at some point in your life is going to do something real estate without you, and you're going to take it very personally. It may be a friend. It might be a family member, okay? Don't take it personal. Just don't. Some people don't want to work with close friends. That has happened to me, okay? They're just like, Dave, I love you, but this is personal to me, and I don't want to expose my finances or whatever that might look like for them. But there may be any myriad of reasons why they don't work with you. Don't take it personal. I have people that won't work with me, but refer business to me. They love me, they like me, they trust me. They just don't want to work with me, and that's okay. All right, so if you could all just open your minds, and I saw some of you shaking your heads and you understand this does happen. The other avenue could be they just didn't think of you. They were out in the field, they were driving through a neighborhood, they walked through an open house, a new construction, before they knew it, they were under contract. Emotion and passion takes over and replaces logic and instinct sometimes, right? They don't think of you. So you have to go and look to yourself. How regularly do I reach out intently to communicate with somebody? Jason Abrams talks about with frequency and intensity. Do you do that? Or are you too soft? I know I am in my relationships. I have made assumptions. I have gone on listing appointments for friends that I figured were in the bag, and I went off script. I didn't stick to my highlighted items. I didn't stick to what I knew was important. And I just was very casual the whole thing. And I lost out on a listing because there was something that somebody else triggered that was important to him that I do. I think it was a video tour or photography. It was something really basic that I didn't hammer my point across. I lost the listing, right? So Don't make assumptions, as my father always says, you make an ass out of you and me, and assume that you're going to get somebody's business. That's why the database is so important. I think, to me, this class is the most important class that I had the privilege of presenting on, right? Because I know if you do this well and you do it right and you're consistent, you will be successful. The hard thing about it is it takes time. It takes time to harvest this data. It takes time to harvest relationships. It takes time to get the information that I have on the screen. And it's incredibly hard to do this, isn't it? There are a lot of you that I know that are scared to death to pick one of these up and call somebody. Facts? I see Jessica laughing. She knows what I'm talking about. She feels me, right? Facts. Picking up the phone is literally one of the hardest things to do. And there's a lot of times where you may do it. It may take you 25 minutes to champion yourself up enough to pick up that phone. And when you do, you're praying. You know what you're praying for? That it goes voicemail. Right? Facts. Right? I'm there. I'm with you. I don't like using the phone. I'm not comfortable with it. It's hard, but it's a necessity in our business to talk to people. Hiding behind Facebook, hiding behind email, hiding behind text messages. Well, those are all valuable avenues of communication if you have access, you have that information for them, is good to a degree. But you have to talk to people. You've got to have a heart-to-heart, mouth-to-mouth, or face-to-face conversation, or mask-to-mask conversation when you can. I just want to hammer that point across. All right, health score, name, email, address, phone number. You actually have a health score for every contact record in your database, okay? Those are worth 20 points each. So essentially 80% of your health score is around those 4 things. Do you have a name? I hope so. It's kind of like an SOL score. If you can write your name, you get 20 points. Or not SOL, what did I say? SAT, right? SAT used to get percentage points for your name. Email, address, and phone number. If you don't have those, what do you have? Do you truly have a contact? Right? We're going to talk about the definition of a contact and a lead. People play them differently. A contact is somebody you actually have a relationship with. A lead is a one-way conversation. They got a hold of me or I got their information, but we haven't established a relationship yet that they know who I'm their guy, right? That's the difference between a lead and a contact. Some of you may define leads as somebody that's buying something and you have a relationship with. In our world, inside of Command, we use it as a one-way conversation is a lead. A two-way conversation where we establish a relationship is a contact. Now, how you define it in your world is fine as long as you're consistent, right? My way is not always the right way. The right way is the way that you do things consistently. That's the right way. The additional 20% to get to 100% health score, okay, is to tag them. Okay, we'll talk about tags here. Social, do you have a social connection with them? Right? Do you have their Facebook page, their Instagram page, their MySpace page? Right? No, I'm kidding. Instagram, LinkedIn, like where are they in your social sphere? And you have a relationship with them. Is that connected inside of Command? Because you can do that. Okay. Where'd the lead come from? Was it an open house? Was it from another contact? Right? Are they from your sphere? Are they from an online lead? How did you get this information? How did you harvest that relationship? Where did the lead come from? It's a lead source. Where do they work? Is it important to know where somebody works? Yeah. When I moved here in 2012, all right, there was a big thing happening where Exxon was relocating. I don't know if some of you have been in the business long enough to remember that took place, right? Exxon was relocating out of the area. So there was a lot of referrals going in the other direction. This past year, the inverse was happening, right? We had Amazon coming to town in Crystal City, right? So there are a lot of people relocating from one area to another. So knowing where people work triggers certain things when you're searching through your database that you may be able to communicate with them about something. So that's important. Maybe, just maybe, you could help somebody find a job, right? As a realtor, do we wear many hats in our relationship with people, right? Babysitters, therapists, best friends, right? Financial advisors, right? Vendor specialists to help them do things around their home. And we get calls for everything. Do you know snow removal, landscapers? If you don't, you should be able to refer somebody out, right? So having that database of vendors, keeps you in consistent communication with your clientele as well, because they'll treat you like the yellow pages if you teach them that you're that kind of value to them, right? They will do that. And their birthday. Is there value in knowing somebody's birthday? Say yes. Let me ask you this. When's the last time you called somebody and said happy birthday to them? Do you do that? Should you do that? Right? Heck, even grandma has given up and is just saying happy birthday on my Facebook post, right? She's just saying she's one of the 75 people that show up online. Differentiate yourself. Pick up the phone. Say happy birthday to somebody. Do you know where to find out, if outside of them being in your personal relationship, it's hard to find birthdays on people. Do you know where to find those birthdays? Anybody?
Facebook.
Facebook. Where on Facebook?
Right in the description. If you look at mine, it's mine today.
Yeah, but if I said, hey, go find everybody that you're friends with on Facebook, do you know where to find their birthdays?
In
It's
your
under
about
the About
section.
tab.
So on your page, you see I'm on my page here. If I go to events on the left-hand side, there's birthdays. See that?
Wrong screen.
Is it not
I didn't see
showing?
that screen. We're
Oh,
only
All right,
specific
hold on.
command.
I'll reshare. Hold on 1 second. I was just showing that screen 2. Here we go. I'll come back out. On Facebook, right? I'm on my page. Okay, right below it on my left-hand side, I have events. Under events are birthdays. If I go to birthdays, it shows me who's today, who was recent, who's upcoming, okay, for the month, and in every month thereafter. Now, show of hands, who knew that this was there? And how many of you knew it was there because you've been in my class before? Okay. So your entire friends, most of them anyways, our birthdays are posted on Facebook. Now, can you trust 100% of what you find online? No. So if you've got 1,500 friends, there's no really way to know if all those birthdays are accurate. Like people can put fake information online. So this is where I say trust but verify when it comes to birthdays, right? So maybe every Sunday you go into your database and you look at Facebook and you take all the birthdays that are coming in. For over one year's time, you add birthdays every week. You'll have all the birthdays into command. Now, you may have birthdays that are in the first of the month, the last of the month, first of the year, last of the year. Those ones are going to challenge you to say, hey, check the authenticity of that date, especially if it's somebody you don't have a true symbiotic relationship with, right? Wait to see if grandmom has said happy birthday on their wall. If you're not exactly sure, wait till that day. You'll only be wrong once, right? So be careful about reaching out to somebody if you're not intrinsically sure about their birthday. But this is incredibly accurate. And I'll tell you, I don't know what the actual numbers are in this. I probably could look it up and I haven't, but I'll tell you this true story. In 2007, when I first got on Facebook, okay, my first birthday that I posted out here was a bogus birthday. My wife was in securities, very conscious about the things that we put about ourselves publicly, okay? So I put a bogus birthday. First of the year, I'll put the first of the month of the year of the month I was born. The following year, I actually had the real birthday inside of Facebook. Does anybody know why? And if you've heard the story, you're not allowed to answer. But who knows why the following year, after my birthday passed once, why my birthday was accurate the next time? Any guesses?
Because you had all kinds of people wishing you happy birthday when it wasn't your birthday.
Well, Facebook wouldn't autocorrect me though, right?
Yeah.
So how was my birthday correct in the future?
You signed up for something else,
Leap
maybe?
year.
What was that, Michael?
Leap year?
Leap year. No.
I don't know.
Essentially, the simplest answer is sometimes true. I'm vain, and I wanted people to say happy birthday to me on my actual birthday. So when I saw everybody else getting happy birthdays on their birthday, I changed mine.
That was my first time, but I didn't want to say it out loud.
It's okay. I'm not gonna say we're all that way, but the majority of us are, right? When we see something like that, we go, well, I want that. I want people to say happy birthday to me. Jackie, you know what I'm talking about, right? So I changed my birthday. So when I say that the birthdays on Facebook are accurate, they're accurate within a degree that as long as people put them there. But I will tell you, people want people to say happy birthday to them. So I feel pretty confident that the majority of them are accurate. So trust but verify, right? And if they're a relationship you had that you don't really know for sure, wait for somebody else to verify, right? And then the following years, they'll always be accurate. Just something I thought, hey, I think it's good to know that that's a great resource for you. And if you systematize your platform to go into Facebook once a week and update that, or once a month, whatever that looks like for you, and add those birthdays to those contact records, eventually you'll be pretty close to having everybody. All right. So that's how you get to 100% once you add all that contact information for each and every one of your contacts. So we'll take a look at building out a contact profile here in a minute. All right, we're going to also talk about tags and custom fields. So once you have everybody in your database, okay, tagging them or organizing them in buckets so you can filter through deliberately, incredibly valuable, incredibly valuable. Where did they come from? Not just there's default things in there. Anybody read the Red Book? Any heard of the Red Book? Okay, there's this thing called the Red Book. You might want to check it out. It's kind of, a lot about what we do for our company. I'm just saying. I have it. Here it is. This thing, that's the Red Book. Okay. Tags are in the system to a degree that reference things in the Red Book already. Past clients, buyers, sellers, vendors, allied resources, they're already built for you. They're in the system. So they're available for you to use. But you can also have your own, right? So I referenced Buffini earlier. So people use A's, B's, and C's, right? A pluses, top 100. How do you organize people, right? Are they hot? Are they a referral source? You can be incredibly customizable for yourself. There's no right or wrong here. I'm going to be clear. Okay. Consistency is the key. I got a ton of people in my database that are from hockey, right? Those that know me know I'm heavily involved in the local hockey community, right? So are they from Ashburn Ice House? Are they from a different hockey league? Are they just from hockey in general? I tag them. Are they from church? Are they from school? Are they from soccer? Are they from baseball, right? When you have children, right, they become your world, and you meet all your friends you just become Connor's dad. Or you're Dylan's dad, right? That's what happens. You lose your identity and you're just, this person that drives them, you're their Uber driver, and you take them from practices to games. So, but you meet a ton of people because of that, right? So be purposeful, come from contribution. Don't spew all over yourself that I'm a realtor, right? Be careful with that. Like, this is kind of a bad thing, but I know people that go to church. I worked with one of these people that go to church just for business. Like don't do that. Don't do that. Right? Come from contribution. Be involved because you want to be involved. Go to something because you're passionate about something, and you will meet people, right? But you should know where they're from. College, hometowns, previous jobs. Like, there's things I always did. I always stayed in touch with people when I changed jobs. Like, it was just something I just naturally did. I stayed in touch with people from college. I was that guy that helped organize reunions. I just enjoy those things. So it made it easy when I was in real estate to kind of, these people are from these categories, and start tagging them accordingly. So that's important. Custom fields. Inside of Command, you have the ability to learn things about people outside of just the predefined criteria that we said, hey, this is important to know about somebody, right? We're going to learn how to build these, but I'm going to give you a couple of things we break down. You should know the answer to this question for every single person in your database. Do they own or do they lease? Am I wrong? Can you argue that point with me? You should know that answer to every single person in your database. And I don't care where they live, right? You should be able to answer, do they own or do they lease? If not, maybe there's a conversation with somebody in your future. Or you cheat and you look it up on the tax records, right? Just saying. Think about all the questions when you're meeting a buyer. Do you have a buyer onboarding form that you fill out, things you need to know about everything? You could build that inside of Command about all these questions. Questions that you ask the same people all the time are custom questions. Do they have kids? When are their kids' birthdays? Do they have dogs? Who's their favorite superhero? Do they like pie? What favorite kind of pie? What's their favorite color? I don't know. Get creative. What do you want to know that says you establish a relationship? Those are custom fields. All right. So I gave some examples here: ABCs, hometown, schools, sports, the daily two. Like, are you calling people on a regular basis, and how are you segmenting your database? That's called the daily two, right? I have a spreadsheet inside the YouTube page. So Wendy or Ted, if you could post the link to the files drive for the Facebook page, I actually have a spreadsheet in there for contacts. That actually has checklists, which we'll cover on Thursday, and tags all in one form as examples for you. Okay. Remember, they're your tags, so be specific to your business, but conscious. And one thing I want to highlight, you should always use colors. So if they're social leads, maybe they're all blue, right? If they came from Facebook, or if they come from realtor.com, or they're from homes.com or whatever, or maybe they're from your sphere, they're all pink or whatever. You can categorize things by color, and maybe there's some symmetry in the color for you, or you just like different colors and you're random. Go right or wrong, right? So like I have everybody categorized by leadership position in the region. They're all red tags: team leader, assistant team leader, MCAs, MCTTs. They're all typed red in my database because color red, right? And there's a difference between if you're on a team or personal tags, right? Your personal tags don't carry over the team, and your team tags that your rainmaker may have created don't carry over your personal. So there's a difference between, there's a firewall between personal and team tags. All right, so let's take a jump into command here. Take a couple look at things. Before I jump into that, Wendy or Ted, I see chat, there's 15 things in there. Is there anything I need to address at this point? Are we good?
Someone is just hoping that you'll talk about claiming contacts as team setup at some point.
I will touch on it. I don't go into too much of the team dynamic, but I can touch on that.
Okay. And that was it so far, just a bunch of back and forth.
Okay, not a problem. All right, so I'm in my database here inside of command. And first thing I want to show you, and I highly recommend that you do this. One of the first things you're doing when you're from an organizational standpoint is go into your settings, okay? And I want you to think deliberately about your tags. Now, there's a couple ways to do tags, and we're in settings under contacts, and there are contact tags. As I mentioned, there are some tags that'll be in the system for you already. They'll be gray boxes, buyer, seller, and then you can create your own. Some system tags, depending on how long you've been using the system, might be white with a green box too. All right. Creating a tag is very easy. You hit the button on the upper right-hand side, create tag, right? Tag it, give it a color. Boom, done. Now, it's that simple. They are case sensitive, right? So if I do a lowercase L for luxury buyer and a capital case L, I'll actually end up creating two tags. So this is why I always say it's important to do this first, because you can create tags on the fly. And I discourage you from doing that because you're going to end up messing up your database and have repetition. So imagine they're from church and you have a church tag, but then later you're creating a new contact and you throw in a new tag called the Presbyterian Church of Ashburn. Same thing, right? And you may have people in separate categories, but essentially they should be in the same. So I encourage you to write all this out, maybe have them on a spreadsheet of what your tags look like, so you're consistent in tagging your database so people are actually where they're supposed to be. And yes, of course, people will be and can be tagged for multiple things, right? They could be a buyer, they could be an A contact, they could be a referral partner, they could also be a vendor or an allied resource, just depending on what they do in their personal lives, right? Their businesses. So build out your tags first, okay? I would say do this if you have time, even before maybe you import your contacts. Because when you import your contacts, you can tag them all at once, okay? And having your tags built will allow you to do that. Does that make sense to everybody? To kind of put some thought through what you're building here, right? We ever heard the saying garbage in, garbage out? Like if you're haphazard in what you're doing, you're going to create a mess of things. If you saw my desk, you would laugh at me for the context that I'm talking to you right now, because my desk is a mess, although I know exactly where everything is. Just saying. But for your database, I want you to protect yourself and be a little bit deliberate about how you're doing things. All right, so that's under contacts. Now, I also told you you can build custom fields. Now you can do this now as you're doing setup. It's just the easiest place, or you can do it later, but I'm going to show you how to do it from here. Right below tags is custom fields. Now I just told you, what was the one thing I told you should know about every single person in your database?
Whether
Whether or
they're
not they
buying or
rent or
leasing.
own.
Thank you. Do they own or do they lease? So literally what I would want you to do is go in here, if you're in front of your computer right now, do this. Create a custom field on the upper right-hand side. Type in the custom field name. Do they own or lease? Again, this is consistency, right? Because sometimes we use different terms, lease, rent, right? So I'd like to frame the question, and then how the response to the question, I can also define how I'm going to capture that information, right? I can have as a text field, right, which means I can type the answer in. They lease or they rent. The reason I don't like doing that for some of these questions is when I go to filter through later and I change my answer, I might not get all of the answers together. So instead of doing a text field, I do it in a drop-down format. That way I'm choosing one or the other, lease or own, right? So if I actually look at this one, I'll just click edit here so you can see it. You'll see that I have a Dropbox answer for the question, do they own or do they lease? And I added own and lease. So that way on their contact records, I see that question and those are the only two answers I can give. Consistency in your database versus a text box where I might type lease with a capital L or lowercase l or rent, right? Or gosh knows what else. So living at their parents, like you get too wordy in some of your answers. Right, renting from a friend, subleasing from their uncle. Do they rent? Do they lease? Or do they own? Consistency in your answers, okay? And then do you want to make that a custom field? What this means is if I check the box, it says make this a custom field, is that on every single contact I had in my database, I will have the ability to answer this question or any question. That's what default questions mean. They'll be on every contact record. If I don't turn this on, okay, then it won't be on the contact record. I can add it to it, but it won't instinctively or historically be there on purpose. And when we look at a contact, I'll show you the difference between a default question and a non-default question that I want to add. Okay, so like, and they're marked here, which ones I have in my database that are default or not, right? So I have what's their pie choice, and I have that as no. So for Thanksgiving, I give pies to certain people in my database, either people that referred or bought something for me. And I give them the choice of apple, pecan, or pecan, because that's what we do. We get pies from Costco and I give those out. Now, not everyone in my database I can afford to give a pie to, right? So that is a non-default question. I added the answer to that to some contact records, right, for people in my database that I give pies to. So is there clarity around building the question, the purposefulness of the questions, and default and or non-default questions? Okay. How you ask the questions again, no right or wrong. You'll see here that I have child's name and child's birth date. Some people just fill it as a text box. I like to have them in, and you'll see when we lay this out, child's name is a text field. I don't put all the kids' names in one text box. I like to have it where I go name, birthday, name, birthday. Because if I go names and then birthdays, I might not be able to follow that up. So I'm deliberate about how I add that information. And when I have birth date, I actually have the ability, you'll see there's a date field. So you can actually select, instead of typing in the date, you get to pick it from a calendar. Consistency, right? Because you might type the date out. I might go 03/23/06, right? Today's my son's birthday, right? Or I might write it March 23rd, right? So different ways of doing it. If you haven't heard me say this enough, there's some strength and consistency around your database, right? Just saying. All right. So any questions on creating custom fields? I can pause here for a minute and see. I want to make sure that you know that this is there, that you have clarity around why you would do something like this. All right, moving on. All right, let's go back to the home screen. Okay. And the first applet, remember we talked yesterday, Command is not a CRM tool. Command is a platform that has a CRM tool. And that CRM tool is contacts. That applet is contacts. Now this applet spiders into just about everything else we're going to talk about over the next 2 weeks. So spending the appropriate amount of time in formatting this properly is incredibly important. Okay. So when you go
David,
to yeah,
I'm sorry, we did have a question come up in the chat about tags.
sure.
Someone's wondering if you've created a tag and you go in and globally update it and change the name in the tag settings, does it automatically update that tag on all of the contacts that you've already added to, or do you have to go in and update each record individually?
No, I honestly don't know the answer to that because I haven't tried.
Yeah, I was actually in the same spot with that one. So, ooh,
Let's grab one here.
Yeah, that was me that asked that question.
Good question. All right, so let's take a look. I got B and E. Let's go contacts, settings. I'm not sure the answer to that, but sometimes I got a second.
Well, the scenario is I was creating all my A, B, and C list contacts, and just having an A there, I wanted to say a person or whatever by changing the name. So I wanted to know if every record would then change based upon making the change in settings.
My guess is, I'm not going to guess. I just changed B and E to B and Q. And I always train my trainers this, right? If you don't know, say you don't know. Don't make up an answer.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
Perfect.
Okay, how's that work for you?
Perfectly. Thank you.
You got it. Great question. I had never thought to ask that or do that because, you know, I'm just that consistent. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm going to change that back. And I'm not only am I impressed that it did that, I'm impressed at how quickly it responded. Okay, so we're back into our contacts. So I'm going to give you guys a quick walking tour of what you're looking at here across this page. So at the top right, we've got import. We'll talk about that in a second, but import is bulk import. That's using an Excel spreadsheet to bring a truckload of information in up front, okay? Add a contact is adding one off contacts singularly at a time, okay? Next to that, we have 3 dots, which allows us to export our database if you ever need to do that, right? Export CSV file, export for PDF, right, for mailing labels. So you can do that. I will tell you right now, they're working on some additional tweakage there. If you have husband and wives, it will not marry them together. They will be on different lines. So you may have to do a little marriage there, but it's not at the point where we take Charlie Brown, a little redhead girl, recognize that they're spouses and put them on one on one line. They'll be on 2 different lines for mailing labels. So just something to be conscious of. Okay. You've got filters. You can filter your database by a lot of things. We just talked about tags being the most prominent and most important thing that you can filter by, right? So that's why you take the most time to organize your tags so you can assign them appropriately to people in your database, okay? I can filter by company. I can do created date. I love this, that I can say filter by the last contact, anybody I haven't contacted within 90 days. Right. So think about your database and being terrified of your phone. And even if you're on a team, if I'm running a team, this is a setup I have out for my buyer's agents that they should be looking at as a default view, the people they haven't touched in 90 days. They should be calling that, you know, quarterly, right? Especially their A contacts. So you can filter out that way. You can filter by, hey, show me everybody that has birthdays this month. Okay, 30 days are out. And branded to me at the bottom is everybody that's in your database that has downloaded, we'll talk about this more on Monday, your consumer app and created an account, because they can use your app and not create an account. But if they've created an account on either the app or your website, they will be stamped what's called branded to me inside of your database. So playing around with these filters is really, really cool. And next, what you can do, once we create a filter, and I just click apply. Oh, didn't like that one for me. So here's anybody I haven't touched in 90 days. Look at that. All right, so let's change that out. Let's clear that out. Let's say, hey, show me all my A and W contacts. Right, that's my daily 2. That's how that They're broken out. That's an example of a daily too. No, that's not right. Oh, I'm in my demo account. Sometimes I forget which account I'm training from. Filters. I've got B&E because I was just playing around with that, right? There you go, B&E. There you go. So there's a B&E. So now let's pretend this B&E is a filter that I use all the time. I can actually turn that into what we call a smart view, which means I'm basically saving this search. Okay. Save smart view. Let's call it B&E contacts. B&E is last name. I'm filtering my database by people that have the last name starts with a B or the last name starts with an E, because I categorically call through the alphabet once a quarter. That's the daily two. 2 letters in your alphabet that I'm calling to get through in a particular week to contact everybody in my database. Now, if I click as save as default view, it means every time I log in, this view is what's going to open up. I'm not going to set it as a default view, but that's what default view means. Save smart view. Now, once I've saved that view, okay, it'll now be available to me through this list. Okay, so I have B&E contacts. I can leave my database, come back, say, show me my B&E contacts, and that's what's going to pop up. Now, also in here, I've got this customized columns button. I love this. Okay, so customized columns will show me all the potential columns that I can filter by. Okay. And then once I check these, let's turn off tags. I'm just playing with different things. Updated, last contact. I like created. So I like using created a lot. It gives me insight as to when I'm looking at certain things. And maybe I'll just, none of them have their birthdays in there. This test count. All right, I'll just leave these. But then on the right-hand side, anything I checked is now on this list. So this list on the right, okay, which is top to bottom, essentially is the same as looking at my navigation screen from left to right. So I've got, maybe I want to move last visited up over updated and then contact, or maybe I want phone number next to created, or maybe I want phone number first, whatever. Apply. You see how my screen changed? And it changed within my smart view of B&E. If I click save this smart view, that new filter, something like something, and we're working on something on the back end. That filter, the way it saved it, will be there perpetually. Right? Anytime you make a change, I'll just come all the way back out to all contacts. Right? Anytime I make a change to something, I'll get this ability to save the smart view and save that change, and I'll get this, hey, this fixes. So now every time I come back to this smart view, whatever changes I click save will update. So that save update's not always there, but every time you make a change, that save update will come and say, hey, do you want to fix this for all time? So be conscious of that. Show 1 of 12, okay? I have 12 contacts in here, but if I had more than 50 or if I had more than 100, I can filter my database, okay, up to 500 people at a time. You know, my larger database, my filter is looking at 50 people at a time. Some people have got a really large database, so they filter out people by 100 and 500, and that's their default filter. The more you're filtering, seconds, milliseconds it takes to kind of refresh your screen, but that's the difference here. And when I toggle from page to page, especially if I'm going through my entire database, then it's quicker if I go 100 at a time or 500 at a time to do certain things. So that's the show. Now, on the left-hand side, next to name, I've got checkboxes. I can check all. I can check a couple, right? And once I do that, I get this secondary action item, select bulk action. Now, I won't be able to go through all of these, but if you read through, you'll kind of get the nuance of what we're talking about here. I could send a text message to these people, right? If you set up your Twilio account, like we discussed yesterday, you can text people directly from here, right? I can mark them as leads. I can unmark them as leads. I can add them to a smart plan. We'll talk about smart plans tomorrow. I can export these particular contacts, right? I showed you earlier the 3 dots up here. I can export all. Well, I could also export a smaller component of my list. So I can export the contacts that I check marked, right? I can export to mailing labels. I could create a PDF. I could add them to pool if I was on a team, and I could change account. Well, I can't change account here because there's no team account. But there was a question earlier about marking people from personal to team. So I'll kind of take a quick second to discuss this. When you're on a team, you actually have two accounts. Okay, you actually have, if I just do this real quick. When you're on a team, and I'm not going to go into two, you actually have two accounts. You see there's a team account and there's an agent account when you're on a team. Okay, and on a team, you have contacts. The contacts may be yours or they might belong to the team. So you get to define that and your team gets to define that. So if I bring my mother into my account for the team, okay, and they're in my personal account, I can't do any of the team functionality unless I move them from my personal account to the team account. Okay, but when I move people from my personal account to the team account, okay, those contacts are stamped that I'm the owner. You'll see it stamped right here. Agent is the owner, although I am in the team account. So that means I get to do all the team functionalities, the team's TC, the team admin, the Rainmaker can look at my transactions and my reports and everything that I'm doing that I'm supposed to do, right? And the Rainmaker, if they're generating leads, can assign me leads. So if they assign me a lead, then the Rainmaker or the team might actually be the owner, but I might be the assignee. So that's a quick difference, okay, between personal account, team account. I do some different team things later, but I just kind of wanted to hammer that point. If you're on teams, to understand the differences between the two, and most of your teams are going to have encouraging conversations with you around that. Your personal contacts should be in your team database to take advantage of the things that the team can do for you. But this is not that class, but I did want to give you clarity. All right, so we'll go back to my demo account here. Oh no. All right, back in my demo account. So we talked about bulk actions. Okay, we talked about filtering the database. We talked about sorting the database by number of contacts or by tags, right? All these things that you can do, creating smart views. Now let's talk about actually importing contacts, right? So one, there's the bulk import. So under bulk import, you've got this download button. When you click download, what you're going to get is an Excel spreadsheet. And I'll bring this into the screen view here in a second. There we go. You all seen the Excel spreadsheet? Okay, awesome. This is great for your original import, or maybe every Sunday after you meet 10, 50 people at an open house, whatever it looks like, you can do a bulk import, okay? First name, last name. Do not delete any of these columns. Do not replace any of the columns. Do not delete columns that don't exist for anybody in your database. This needs to be just the way it is in order for it to map properly. You're going to have issues on your import, okay? So don't change any of these headers. Don't delete any of these rows, columns, or headers. I'm going to point out a couple of important things here. You've got birth dates in here, so you can actually put their birth date in there, okay? First name, last name. You've got their home address in there. You got their mailing address in there, right? Because that could be different, okay? You've got stage. Stage is this, right? Qualified, captured, or connected. Well, who are they? Somebody you're connected with? Did you capture them as a lead source so that you don't really have a relationship? And are they qualified, right? Are they qualified to purchase a property? So that's what stage is referencing there, okay? Then there are system tags. The difference between system tags and custom tags are these are the ones that I referenced earlier that the system already has available to you in there, okay? Buyer, seller, bought, sold, agent, KW agent, allied resource talent, referral partner, downline, And if they're any of those, okay, then you simply just put a Y in those columns. You don't put a no, you just put a Y if those apply, and they will tag them accordingly when you import them to the database. So they'll automatically be stamped buyer, seller, bought, sold if those exist, or they'll exist in your database, but they will tag them to the contact records if you mark them as a yes for each and every contact that you're bringing in, okay? Now, next to that, we see custom tags. Custom tags is where you apply your tags. So now you know why I said build your tags first, right? So if this was an A contact, right? And it'll stamp a contact, and that a contact exists in my database already because you built them. Now, I want to make this very clear. So I have a contact in my database, but if I type a contact here with a lowercase a, it'll stamp them a contact, but create a new tag and not tag them to the existing capital A contact, right? So you can create tags on the fly here. So maybe I don't have them built at all. You could go through here and boom, tag, and it'll create all of those tags. It'll also add them to your database contact record and to your created tags in the background. I highly encourage you to not do it this way, although it may be quicker. I still think it's easier and cleaner if you build them in the system first. No right or wrong here. That's just Dave's recommendations. Everybody cool with that? Notes. You can add notes around a contact record. You can add up to 2,500 characters worth of notes to import into a database per contact. If you have a relationship that you're migrating from a different database that's much longer, you can only take the first 2,500 characters. Then you would basically have to dump them into a Word document and then go to the contact record and bring all that additional information over. But notes is limited. Source, where did they came from, right? Are they from my SOI? Right? Are they from my Sphere? There's a lead source that I can go back to, but there's a list of, there's 93 lead sources that you're probably not all familiar with yet, but you can kind of go through and look and see what they are. And then you can tag them here as you're doing your imports. Then you've got social media, right? So on this form, it recognizes Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, which doesn't exist anymore, Pinterest, Instagram, and House. I can't add anything else. Like I couldn't add their Snapchat or whatnot. They're working on some advanced features to allow some more customization on our import forms. But right now, this is fairly static as about what data I can bring in all at once. So this is what your import form would look like. Highlighted the important fields. And once you fill all that out and you do an import, you would literally take that Excel spreadsheet, drag it here, and it'll bring everybody in. Okay. Couple things to note. If you had at some point in time manually entered somebody in and that phone number or email address exists in the database, it won't bring in that contact the second time. So it'll prevent you from creating a duplicate contact around an email address or a phone number, okay? So you may have to do a match. So if you have a husband and wife and they use the same email address, you can't import them both to the same email address. You would have to go manually enter that to the contact record, okay? But it's nice that it prevents you from doing duplicates. Now, if you're importing somebody with a different email address, so I've got Joe Smith in my database at joesmith@gmail.com. And then I go to email, or I'm importing Joe Smith a second time, but I've got Joe Smith the second at gmail.com. But Joe Smith the first and Joe Smith the second are the same person. It will actually create a secondary contact record. It won't know that they're the same person. It'll create a second. And there is no, as it stands now, there is no abilities to filter or say, hey, yes, this is the same person. It's something they're building on, but you have to be a little bit conscious. You do have the potential to maybe create duplicate records inside of your database. So that can happen at this point in time. All right. Any questions on that import form? Wendy, anything in chat for that?
I put 2 questions in the chat. First of all, when you were putting in for the system tags, does the Y have to be capital, or can it just be a Y?
No, that doesn't matter.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. And then if I don't have when I'm uploading bulk importing again, when I'm uploading custom tags, if I put in a new custom tag that doesn't exist in command, it will save, correct?
Yeah, it'll create a new tag.
Okay. And then I can go in there and then change the colors and everything, because obviously you can't do that from Excel.
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Awesome. Thank
Yes,
you.
that is correct. And what you can't do, so let's say I bulk loaded, I brought in 50 people, and then I gathered more information on that spreadsheet and I enhanced the information on that spreadsheet later. I can't import them a second time to overwrite their contact records. So
Okay.
once they're imported and loaded, any enhancements to the contact cards, I have to do at the contact card level.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
So I
That
can't do any overwrites or updating in bulk form yet.
would have been my question probably like 5 minutes down the road. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say yet to most things that you may ask for, because it's a living and breathing platform, right? We're constantly enhancing it. All right. So now under add a contact, which is what I would do for, a couple of contacts, right? Or a one-off. Okay. I would go ahead and add them, right? Now I also have this add relationship. This is cool, right? So here it might be a spouse. There's like 15 other options here to tag people in their database, right? And if it's somebody that exists in your database, I can tag them together like this. If they're not in the database and I type their name, oh, I already have them in there. Then I could add that person and would create a contact card for that person if they don't exist yet. All right. Now, when you create that secondary contact card for somebody, it doesn't bring any other information over for them other than just creating that contact card. So it won't bring over address or phone numbers, right? Because most people have different emails and phone numbers, and the addresses might be the same. It's not making any assumptions on that. Say, hey, replicate this card or certain fields in this card. It'll create a secondary contact card with this person. It'll connect that relationship together, but you'll still have to go through and add their different additional information for that new contact if they didn't already exist. Then you would add their email, right? Phone number, okay. Lead source, where'd they come from? So here's that lead source I was referencing. There are 93 of them. Or I'd say, hey, they came from somebody in my database. So I can connect the contact cards around referrals into my database. Now I'll tell you a couple things at this point. This is early generation of some of the things we'll be able to do here. So right now, if I tag Charlie Brown as the lead source, I don't have like a lead tree, or it doesn't track onto Charlie Brown's record to show me all the people that I got as a referral source from him as of yet. But in the future, you're going to be able to think about, you're going to have a tree that's going to show you all the people that came into your world based off of a referral person. That's where this is going. So I do recommend you to take the time to organize this and add them if that's how it comes. Or if maybe they just came from Facebook, right? And then I might just say, hey, they came from Facebook. Right? I could tag it that way. Then I can say, are they a lead or are they a contact? Remember our conversation around a lead earlier. Have I had a one-way conversation? Like if I just met them at an open house, it might still be a lead at this point because I haven't won them over to work with me yet. And then it says add to sales pipeline. You can ignore this for right now. We're going to talk more of this about opportunities later. This doesn't do a whole lot yet, but this will in the future. But right now it's not functioning. It's not functioning as intended yet. Then what tags do I want to add to them, right? So I tag them. Then I'm going to add more information. Okay. Add contact information. How do they like to be communicated? This is just a note for you. They prefer email, phone, or text, or don't contact them at all. This do not contact at all has no relevance as to whether or not you actually send them an email or text. It's just letting you know to not contact them. It won't stop you or the system from contacting them. I'll be clear about that. Okay. Additional emails that they may have, I can add those here, additional phone numbers, and I can add multiples, okay? Their home address, where do they live? Address is really, really important. We're gonna talk about this more tomorrow in Smart Plans. Addresses are incredibly important in our world for what we call biweekly or neighborhood nurtures, okay? And when you type it in, I want you to choose it from the dropdown, because what the dropdown allows you to do, it actually pins that address to a Google map, so it knows where they live. If I just type in the address, it doesn't make a Google map connection. Now, not all addresses exist. It might be something new, right? That's under construction where it hasn't been recorded or posted yet. It's very, very few, but you always want to select that address from the map, or from the dropdown list, sorry. Then you see the social media pages, right? So if I had a social media account, I would literally just cut and paste my Facebook page here. And what's going to happen is, if I just threw one in here, just so you can see it on a contact record when we bring this live. One second, I'm just going to grab an example, throw this in.
David, we do have a few questions, most around kind of the bulk import stuff. I had someone pop into my office, so I missed them when they came up a little earlier.
All right, let me come back to that and get through the contact record. I answered a couple while you were talking to somebody, and they may have been addressed.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, guys.
So about, I can put down here. Oh, sorry, let me go back up. Sorry. There are additional Facebook. All right, I added that Facebook page, but you'll see here, there are a couple other avenues. Snapchat's there. My face, I think, is a joke. Their website or URL. So there's a couple other options that weren't on the original import form. Twitter is there as well. So you can add those at the spot about, right? Their birthday, their home anniversary, additional relationships other than the one at the top. You start building that relationship tree. It's different than the referral tree, right? I might have husband, wives, kids, aunts, uncles, daughters, right? Business partners, right? And in the future, we'll be able to see like a community tree around relationships. So right now, this doesn't do anything other than collect that information, but this will be valuable to you at some point in the future. I don't know how much more valuable or when, but I like where this is going, okay? When it comes to kids, I don't add kids on a relationship to create their own contact record unless they're over 18, right? Younger kids, I add them under custom fields. If they're over 18, I might start make a decision as to whether or not I start building them out their own contact records, because at some point I hope to sell them a house, right? So that's how I handle children. Below that is their work. Where do they work, right? Letters, got my caps on. And then I've got custom fields. Now remember at the beginning of this, we talked about custom fields, right? So you'll see that default questions will pop up. Do they own or do they lease? He owns that doghouse of his, and he's never going to, or maybe he's, I might be wrong. He might be leasing that doghouse from Charlie Brown. I'm not sure. Might be a lease, ground lease. This thing's got a little funky. I don't know how they, maybe it's, at this point in time, maybe he's got an easement that, therefore it's his property. He might be a squatter. Nobody's laughing at that. You guys are dry today. All right. Custom fields are the other questions that I built out that are not default. Birth dates, pie choice. Then I can answer those questions. So you'll see the defaults were there. Add custom field was seeing the other questions that I built that weren't defaulted to the contact record. And yes, I actually could add a new question from here if I wanted to and create something completely new. Same thing with the tags. If I started adding tags under tags of a non-existing tag, I actually could create one here that would create a new tag too. Again, be careful, be deliberate, pause, think, research. Does this already exist, or does it exist in a different format? Or do I really need to create a new? Right? That's just me protecting you from yourselves. All right, click create. So now I'll have this new contact record. I know I'm running a couple minutes long, so I apologize, but I want to make sure we cover everything. And I'll now see Snoopy, right, in my list. Snoopy Brown. And Snoopy Brown has a 96% contact record, because I think the one thing I'm missing for him that would keep him, I didn't put his birth date in. That's why he's not at 100%. But you'll see, and we'll touch on this more tomorrow, that I've pinned his address to a record. So now I see this neighborhood identifier, which allows me, that's the first step in me sending a smart plan with neighborhood information to him. So that's what happens here. So from the contact record, everything we have is on the left, which can always be edited, right? Address is there, social profiles, right? Their relationships to people would be listed here, their job, the custom fields, all that information is right here on this page. And then on the right side, I see additional things that we'll learn all about in the future. Timeline, all the activities that I've done for this contact. Do they have an opportunity? Are they on a smart plan? Do I have tasks that I need to do for them, right? Any notes that I created, any saved searches that I set up for them, right? Saved searches, just as you can add a saved search for somebody, which is similar to a search from the MLS. So that's what a saved search is. We'll cover that in a little bit more detail later. But the contact records, all that activity takes place here. So if I come all the way back out, that's contacts. Like, I think there's an incredible amount of value. You see how much information you can add, how much customization you have. So everybody's display screens are probably going to end up looking different, right? Your tags, your custom fields, all that functionality that you have to add around your database is limitless. So with that, let's take a look at chat and see if I missed anything. Wendy, anything in there that I need to readdress? Your mic is off.
There we go. I'm not fully clear on if any of these were addressed while I was chatting with someone who popped in. Someone is wondering what activities trigger the last contacted date. So what's considered contact to show that someone's been last contacted?
Sure. Did I send them an email? Did I make a phone call and record the phone call that I made a call? Did I send them a text message from the system? Right? That's contacted. Some things are tracked because the system sent it for you, like an email or a text. If I had a task where I made a phone call and I checked the box that said I made this phone call, okay, or I did this activity, then it would update that last contacted box.
Awesome. The next two questions are about bulk importing. So the first was, when you do bulk uploads, does command match contacts in the back end to update them? So
We address both.
and then you have their
We answer-
email, but then you upload their phone number. Does it connect that?
I think we answered both of those. We
Oh,
covered
okay.
those.
The other one was about bulk importing. Does the tag have to be marked with a capital Y or can it be a lowercase y?
We addressed
I
that.
think it could be lowercase.
It could be lowercase.
Oh, good. And if I bulk imports custom tags that don't currently exist in my command database, will they be saved?
Yes.
That was it.
Okay. For the rest of you that are still in the call, go open mic. If you didn't get your question answered, or we missed something, or if there's something specific you need, now's the time to go ahead and ask it.
Oh yeah, this is Patricia. So I've been tasking, I've been setting up, there's tasks and then there's action items. So when you create an action item or create a task, they're slightly different in what they allow you to do. And then you can close them out and say that you've done them. So one, can you talk a little bit about that? And are you saying that whether it's a task or an action item, it will count as a last contact?
Yeah, depending on what it is. So a task is like something I need to do. An action item might be tracking something that I already did. Right? Do I need to schedule a meeting? Do I need to make a phone call? That could trigger a task. If I held the meeting and I'm just adding notes, there might have been a notes inside of an action item versus just notes. Right? When I add tasks, they'll show up on my left-hand side here, under tasks. And then I'll also see them on my home screen. When you build out tasks, this is an important note too. I get this question. My tasks disappeared. Where'd they go? If you assign yourself a task to do and you don't do it, after 45 days, the system will archive it for you. Because it assumes either that you did it and didn't mark that it's completed, or you don't intend to do it. And now your system is just bogging up on a whole entire list of things that you will never do. So it'll move things to archived. Now you can also filter them by date. So be conscious, like you might be looking at today and nothing's due, and you'd be like, I know I have things to do. They might be in the future or they may have passed. So be conscious in filtering out that information. Also, there's a difference between contact tasks, or once you start building out your opportunities of things I need to do to move the transaction forward.
Okay.
Right? So there may be contract to close stuff. I need to send stuff to the title company. I need to call them to remind them to clean the carpets, whatever it looks like. They're assigned to the opportunity and the person versus just contact task, which I'm going to call this person and schedule a meeting with this person. Talk a little bit more about opportunities on Thursday, but there's a difference between the two. Also, if you're on a team, okay, I can assign a task to somebody else to do something other than myself. So if I have a transaction coordinator or somebody else that's doing things on my team that are part of the transaction, that'll show up in their opportunity tasks. So Patricia, I could assign you to call Miss Utility, right? Or call for sign up, call 123 junk, and it will
Right.
show up on your opportunity test to do something around the opportunity.
Right. And on the activity piece, add activity, it only gives you a few pull downs and it doesn't give you the option for email, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, there, like I said, there's some nuance difference around tasks, and I honestly I don't have a great article defining the difference to tasks and activities. In my mind, there's a lot of overlap in those two things. And just for those that are asking, which you look at, I have this plus button on the bottom right, but I also have this add activity option here of what interaction type. So meeting, call, text, or quick note. I chalk those up to a task is something I need to do in the future, and activity is something essentially that I might have already done. Now, if I send them an email, it's going to stamp to the contact record that I sent it already. So I don't need to make a note that I sent them an email.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because remember yesterday in settings, we went over, as long as I connect that either Outlook or Gmail
Right.
account, it tracks that I sent them an email. So I should never have to update the contact record that I sent them an email or I need to send them an email. If I need to send them an email, that'll be a task, a to-do. Yeah, there's a little bit difference there. But again, I'm going to go back to my favorite word of the day, consistency, about how you use one or the other. But I do think we could gain a little clarity around that a little bit better. So I'm going to talk to Paul about maybe a fact page article instead of answers.paper to kind of detail that a little bit better for everybody.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions that I haven't answered for everybody? All right. Well, other than that, I'm finding that most of my classes are running about 15 minutes long. So I try to get as much info as I can to you guys. Jessica, you got a question? I see your hand raised.
No, I was just trying to figure out something here.
All right, perfect, not a problem. All right, other than that, so tomorrow we are going to cover smart plans. It's going to be taught by one of our Mark Center tech trainers, Jerry Trickey. Will be leading the day tomorrow. I will be here. I'll be monitoring chat. But tomorrow we'll learn all about what do we do with these contacts now that they're in the system. How do we communicate with them systematically and automatically? That'll happen through smart plans. So have a great day, and I'll see you all then.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.